To lift up engine just a little bit, put something under this engine, remove all this stuff over here, this cover, this housing, filter, this expansion tank, 10mm socket to undo this housing, 2 bolts and 1 nut. Basically it's the same if you have deal with back engines with diesel. Everything is almost the same. Screwdriver pushing here and from this side, and then you can remove this expansion tank and take off this mount. If you want, you can remove this clamp and take off this expansion tank fully so it's not getting in the way. Now 13mm socket, 18 to undo these 2 bolts, and 16 to undo these 2 bolts. You need to cuff this battery cables, and for more space I will take off battery, 13mm socket. You can use magnet or only hand. Pull this thing up. Now take off air filter housing. Vacuum. White goes up and you press off. Now these lines, these 2 hoses, vacuum, one on the turbo, one on the valve cover. You can separate hose in this place or in this place and take off all together. 7mm socket to undo the clamp, and also this vacuum from this place. Okay, pull up. You can lubricate, come off easily. Yes. Now I need to take off air pipe. It's 7mm over there. T30. 2 bolts over there. Another bolt. And 7 sockets on the clamp. Maybe you will need hook because it sticks and sits pretty tight, and maybe lubricate. And from this spot right here, take off this harness from this retaining clip. Detach this harness from here, and connector for itself is somewhere. Never mind. Unclip over here, and you will see these connectors. Press and attach one. It's over here. Okay, you need to cut this. You need to also cut this one. Just move from right to left. T30. Of course, what else can it be? Harness 1 and harness 2. Back in place, and now you can see this beautiful thing. You will need 5mm hex under this clamp. Now it's 13mm socket. And from under you need to undo this one nut and this one bolt. From this side, one bolt over there. One bolt over there. And you need to undo this clamp and bolt over there, and also this pipe. One pipe, 10mm socket. This nut over here. So the pipe can move there. And this clamp. And maybe you will have to smash the clamp with the hammer, take it off, and there is a gasket. And when you take this pipe off, you will have more access to the bolt, upper one of the DPF. And I need to make this kind of construction to undo bolt over there. This one. It may be difficult to detach this clamp because it's pretty tight in its own place, and it's not much space over there to pry bar it with something. So undo clamp with T30 and then go up. I need to squeeze this from both sides to remove. Now you can see clamp over there. you need to detach this clamp somehow. Pry bar. You can do this from this spot. Then with some drastic movements, finally you can rotate or leave it as it is. 16mm, and undo these two bolts. Plastic shield. Trying to release clamp between turbo and DPF. $18mm socket to undo bolt of the DPF mount, and this thing finally moves. Yeah. Take off this clamp. Just in case if you don't know, this thing is adjustable. Remove coolant hose. This one. Undo this bolt. Rotate and remove. Now T30 again for this pipe. Mount from here, this side. And detach this hose. Pipe this way. And spring clamp goes off. And by following these steps of the workshop manual, you can remove EGR cooler from above. But I don't want to remove these pipes, so I will do it in this way. From hose. Sometimes you need to rotate the spring clamps to be able to remove it. And detach hose, and coolant will flow on everything you do. Undo two bolts of the lower mount bracket, 16mm socket. You can put some wooden brick between subframe and engine. And now you can disconnect this cooler. This radiator from DPF filter. And EGR cooler have gasket. And clamp. T30 socket to undo. It looking that way. Inside. And also one connector is behind this heat shield. There is one clip over there, and you can disconnect this connector. But can you detach this and remove this cooler? And all you need to do is pry bar a little bit. And here you go. Cooler out. Just pry bar in this place between subframe and gearbox. Look behind this flap. Wow. There is one pipe over here, oil inlet pipe of the turbo, and 17 to undo. And next from under, and after removal of the jar cooler, you have more space to undo some bolts and pipes of the exhaust manifold and turbo. And first you can undo oil return line with 10mm socket or T30, and it will be easy to do with wobble extension and 10mm socket. To undo bolt over there. Well, another bolt is not a big deal at all. And just because oil return pipe will interfere with removing bolt of the mount bracket, you need to bend this pipe just a little bit aside. So you're not gonna need to remove it completely, or remove this pipe completely if you want. Just move this side. In case if you need to remove oil supply line, other end of it is mounted to the cylinder block behind this heat shield, and it mounted with bungee bolt over there. So wooden bricks between subframe and engine. Go up. Of course, it's better to use good quality of T30 bits when you undo bolts of the exhaust manifold, and especially with tourques. These two bolts. Okay, now it's all about nuts. Upper one and lower ones. Move this. Have access to the lower bolts. I mean lower nuts of the exhaust manifold or turbo which is basically the same on this engine. And sometimes this happens when you undo nuts of the exhaust manifold, then screwing with studs, but most of the times there's no problems to undo these nuts. And underneath there is one nut over here. It's behind mount bracket of the DPF, and you will need to remove also this mount bracket, because you won't be able to remove turbocharger without removal of this mount bracket. You will need to undo one bolt over here left, two bolts on the right side. Bend this inlet pipe a little bit, and then also you can bend just a little bit outlet pipe. And then you have your turbo out. Let's look inside. Gasket. And maybe you need, this is serial numbers of turbocharger. So this is how it looks like, EGR side and turbocharger. Gases from the exhaust come through this EGR cooler from this side right here, and goes up to this pipe, to this hose, and straight to the turbo. You can remove turbo, but can you install it back in place? Yep, you can easily. Just don't forget to install gaskets.
It's a bad here, Dave. Still stepping outside. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. We getting the call right now. We gonna decline the call.
Some tightening torques of the turbocharger elements and tightening sequence. Well, without EGR cooler, you can install and tie bolts of the mount bracket for emission control module, and you can do this even from the top. And also you can easily tighten this bolt that mounts turbo to the bracket of the DPF. And it's easy to tie this bolt before you install and torque down the outlet pipe of the turbo. So you pry bar where the gearbox is and then insert bolt.
Right now, I said I just wanna vibe.
Will be looking like just like that. And now you can try to install EGR cooler back in place, and without this small mount bracket it will be much more easier. As you can see, securing bolt in place, remove small bracket, and push it up. Up. Couple twist. And it's better to connect wires to the valve of the EGR cooler right away before engage EGR cooler with DPF, because after you attach EGR cooler to the DPF, it may be difficult to connect that connector. And just don't forget, install outlet pipe and inlet pipe just right before you put EGR cooler in place. And all this time this DPF or emission control module will be in this position for installation of the EGR cooler. It's not that bolt. And when you install EGR cooler, don't rush to torque down one clamp at one time. I mean, you install every clamp, every mount bracket, everything in place, and then only you can tight clamps, so it will be in right position and not causing any leaks of the gases or anything else.
Or you can follow these steps of the workshop manual to install emission control module.
First I will install this clamp between DPF and EGR cooler. Install but not tight, just keep it loosened. Don't forget to remove this bolt before installation of the clamps. You need to install also small mount bracket. Just tight it slightly, and it's the place where you need to mount another bolt. Screw in. Then you rotate EGR cooler, install hose, and then maybe you will be lucky enough to install also DPF to the turbo. And just make sure that you fit it and mount bracket over there. And then install clamp between turbo and DPF. I will try to install it like it was, in this direction. Rotate and secure, but don't tight yet. And of course it's T30, and these bolts of the EGR cooler are slightly tightened. Install bolts on DPF, but don't tighten them. And also these bolts in place where you need to install it is adjustable. On outside, these compensation elements have left-hand treat. Turn clockwise to move in this direction, and anti-clockwise in this direction, closer to the mount bracket. will be clockwise. And so first you install but not side following clamps. Clamp between EGR cooler and DPF, clamp between DPF and turbo, and clamp between DPF and exhaust pipe. And then you tie them all the way. Clamp of the turbo and DPF on top. Then tighten all the way. Clamp between EGR cooler and DPF. Then clamp between DPF and exhaust pipe. And also one compensation element is on the cylinder heads to reduce distance between this element and mount bracket of the emission control module. And when you tight all clamps, you can now tight bolts of all of the mount brackets. Those two bolts, those two, and also these two, and all those pipes, hoses. Install this shield, and right before you install turbocharger you can add fresh oil into the supply hole, then serve compressed air to rotate impeller shaft. By doing so you will pre-lube shaft and it will be not dry when you start the engine after repair.